and I'd like to begin with Fort Jefferson, which is located in the Florida Keys, making this one of the strangest structures in the world, in my opinion. Supposedly, they had slaves trying to build it for 30 years. Of course, if you've seen any of my previous videos, you will understand the narrative often uses these slaves or prisoners as their master builders, because we all know they have an artistic, steady hand. So 16 million bricks later, in 1876, they said, we're all done building it, and just left it unfinished, which is obviously the most logical thing to do, and just a brilliant idea. Even unfinished, it remains the largest masonry structure in the Western Hemisphere. Of course, this was found, and this story is completely fabricated, which is exactly why they had to turn this into a prison. Now that we have that story all laid out, let's begin to ask some basic, open-minded questions. Who decides that this is a good spot for the largest masonry structure in the Western Hemisphere, without any fresh drinking water, in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico? Literally. Is this logistically possible in this time period, to ship 16 million bricks onto this little piece of land? What is going on here? It's clear that the land was formed perfectly. Which company in the 1800s were in the business of land creation in the ocean? This is all the way at the end of the Keys as well. The story simply doesn't make any sense if you ask me. Just hire a bunch of slaves and prisoners. They'll get the job done. Don't even worry about it. They know exactly what they're doing. Now here's a map of all the Starforts in the USA alone. Even the Statue of Liberty sits on top of one. I personally find it odd how these major cities just pop up all over the place. What makes a place so perfect that a major city develops, especially in the middle of the desert? Let's look at Las Vegas as an example, and go slightly northeast, and we will find the remains of what was once a starfort. Clearly, this starfort was hit by an extreme event, leaving just a pattern on the ground. Not only is there a starfort, but there is also some sort of monument right next to it. This was built in 1856, so we have a lie right off the bat. Let's continue. The story is absolutely ridiculous. It was the headquarters for a cavalry in the 1870s, and that was it? How exactly is it worn down like it was built 2,000 years ago? Was there a fire? No. Was there a war? No. Nothing? Really? Just naturally looks like this. The scriptwriter was surely cut off the payroll after this one. This was clearly hit by a direct energy weapon, in my opinion. It's completely destroyed and isn't even close to its original form from only 150 years ago. Let's compare this to something else built in the 1870s and show that this is a total lie. Or we could just show something built supposedly 400 years ago. Even better, this is St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Looks good to me. No rust, nothing. Do you guys see any signs of weathering here? Let's go over this little island in the middle of the ocean and take a look at this very real and believable story. This starfort was built, but not up to their standards. So in 1672, Cornelius Spielmann ordered an engineer to redesign the fort into a magnificent castle. This project would turn into a lengthy, hard-fought build. It would take hundreds of years to... No, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. It took them 1 year. Finished in 1673, 1 year later. And of course, there would be no other starforts in the area, which is understandable. It's the one part of the story that I'm able to actually wrap my head around. Wait, what? What is that? Another starfort's right next to it? Okay, I give up. Here we have a second starfort on this tiny island in the middle of the ocean. Making sense? Built by the Portuguese in 1529, of course. Its purpose was supposedly to control the trade in nutmeg. Their admiral was attacked and killed, of course, to give this Wikipedia page anything at all to write on. Otherwise, the page would have been basically blank, as they have no idea where this really came from or don't want us knowing the true story. Now, let's take a look at some cities that are in the form of a starfort, because this is normal and easy to design. Major cities into star formations hundreds of years ago. Simple. Let's go all the way to Palmanova, Italy together and take a look at what they have to say for themselves. Okay, right off the bat. This city was created in 1593, mapped out to perfection for an aerial masterpiece. What is the point of giving us the sky view, since the plane wasn't invented for hundreds of years later? Oh, they used the latest and greatest military innovations to develop this design for their city. The types of guns that were being used look like this during this time period. But when it comes to insane star forts, let's just chalk it up to military expertise and move on. Mr. Vincenzo Scamozzi is credited as the architect for this star fort. Scamozy? Really? Scam. Ozzy. I'll tell you one thing that's
I'm sorry, but that shit right there is just funny. You couldn't have picked a more obvious name.
scamming us is this BS story they're trying to get away with. In 1622, it was supposedly in perfect condition, and nobody wanted to live there. Is this a joke? Guess who they gave free housing to? Poor Venice was forced to pardon all their criminals and give all of them free housing in this Starfort city. Just giving away Starfort cities. Come on down. Anyone who has committed a crime, you are not only freed from jail instantly, but you are given a palace in one of the world's most perfect architectural places. Enjoy. Now, let's go all the way to Netherlands and see what they have going on over there. I'm sure it's nothing crazy, and all the stories check out. Oh, what is this? Another Starfort city in a completely different country? Anyone have any questions? No? Me either. I guess I have a few. Like, what is going on in 1593 that they knew how to create something like this? The star is literally perfect, not even off by an inch, and it is filled in with water. Yet they didn't even have modern plumbing figured out until the mid 1800s. Do I even need to go further to know that this was built by an advanced civilization? I will go further, but do we need to? It's literally not at all how we build towns. Yet this is supposedly happening in 1593 and built to perfection and remains that way to this very day.
Yeah, right. Like how in the 1500s were you doing shit like that? But hell, how in the 1500s was, or whatever. I don't know. I'm not good with Greek numbers and all that shit, or Greek history, whatever you want to call it. But Rome and all that type shit. Like how was people doing shit like that? Everybody just want to question, a whatever you call it, a big diamond square thing. We call pyramids. Yeah, they're cool and everything, but man, they ain't elaborate like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they were elaborate for their time, but so is this, obviously. You know what I'm saying? These places weren't built yesterday. How the hell is all this? And that's another thing. There's so many different cultures around the world today, and have been for at least a couple few hundred years or so. How is everybody so different in recent times, if you want to call the last few hundred years recent? But over the last God knows how many thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, we don't know. There was obviously everybody was alike. There's a whole lot of like infrastructure built all around the world. That don't make no sense from what we're told. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what y'all think. Let me know in the comments.